Hi everyone, I'm Bob and I'm the Kenzo chef. Today's video, I'm going to show you a recipe that was taught to me by my grandmother. It is in no way an authentic meal, but it was what she called it. It's called Italian wedding soup. Over here we have the ingredients. I have a pack of chicken breast to be exact. In yours you can use chicken breast, you can use thighs, you can use a whole chicken, which is what's usually traditionally used. I have a bag of carrots, an onion, spinach, some eggs that you'll scramble and throw in later on. I have some chicken broth, a small pack of ground beef for the meatballs, the breadcrumbs, and the Parmesan cheese will go into the meatballs. And then you'll also put an egg in there as well to mix and blend, which I'll show you as the video goes on. So let's get started. Alright, step one. I diced up some chicken and let's throw it in the pot. It does not need to be a hot pot, because what you're going to do here is just, you're going to bring this chicken and the broth up to a quick boil, and then we're going to turn it down to low and let it simmer. That's one. And there's the second one. Now as you're making this soup, if you don't feel as though it's made enough broth, you can easily add more water and probably a few chicken bouillon cubes or even some vegetable bouillon cubes, either or, it doesn't matter. Alright, so we'll bring this up to a boil and then let it simmer on low for probably about a half hour. This way it cooks the chicken pretty much all the way through. And then once that happens, come back, I'll move on to the next step. Alright, now that my chicken's been simmering for about 30 minutes, it's time to add the vegetables. Diced onions. I just do one. You can put as many as you want. I'll use 2 packs of frozen spinach. Just pop them right in there. That soup will start to simmer and boil. Eventually. Take a bag of baby carrots. I'm not going to use this whole bag, I'll use about half. And just throw them in as is. Stir it all in. So we'll turn the heat back up to high to get this back to a boil. Once it boils, we'll move on. We'll turn it back down to medium-low, and we'll move on to the next ingredient. Alright, the veggies simmered for 15 minutes, so I cranked it back up to a boil, and now it's time to add in the meatballs. Now you don't have to sit there and hand roll a million little meatballs. I was taught a technique by my grandmother that you just grab a handful, pinch it off, throw it in the soup. So you get meatballs that are about that big. You don't want them to be giant because the soup doesn't need to have giant meatballs in it. So anyway, start throwing the meatballs into the boiling soup. meatballs will take probably about 15 to 20 minutes to fully cook through. So we'll get them in there, give it a quick stir, turn that heat back down to medium, and then we'll move on to the next ingredient. Give it a stir though so you don't have that meatballs sticking to the bottom of the soup. It'll only take a minute to start boiling again. As you can see, that meatballs pretty much start to turn instantly because of how hot the soup pot is. So, your vegetables should already be fork tender at this point. Now, as far as the spinach is concerned, you can easily use the frozen like I did, which is quicker, or the fresh baby spinach, which will also wilt down. But I like a lot of spinach in my soup, so I usually go with the frozen kind. Also at this point, so it's starting to boil again, so let's turn that down to like medium or so, and let's throw in a little salt and pepper at this point. Here's your pepper. A little bit of salt, not too much. Sometimes those meatballs, depending on what you seasoned them with, can make this soup very salty. And I usually also, when I put my vegetables in, will put in fresh garlic, chopped or diced. But I ran out. So what I'll use is garlic powder. Alright, now that it's simmering again, we'll put the lid back on, leave it go, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, now we're on to the last ingredient we'll put in while it's cooking, and that's the scrambled egg. I took 3 scrambled eggs, and then you just add it in while the water or the soup itself is boiling. It's kind of like egg drop soup if you've ever had that. You add this in at the very end. You stir it in. Sorry, I got cheap utensils. Supposed to do this part while it's boiling. Now, I don't know if this is actually the exact recipe for Italian wedding soup. This might be the recipe for escarole. I don't know. All I know is my grandmother, who taught me how to cook, called it Italian wedding soup. So that is what I'm calling it in this recipe, this video. You know something's different, you're more than likely to add that in the comment section. Who knows, maybe I'll alter my recipe. Otherwise, this is what I'm just sticking with. Once you have all that egg in, you're going to give it a nice little mix again. Let it simmer for maybe 5 more minutes just to let them eggs completely finished cooking. Now, my recipe, my grandmother never put pasta in it. I know some Italian recipes for this soup call for like little tiny pastas like an orzo and whatnot. My grandmother never put pasta in it, so neither will I. If you want to, feel free to do it. Now, if you notice, my soup pot is filled to the top while we were off camera. I added more water to it and a couple of vegetable bouillon cubes for flavor. I'll stir that in. Real or not, this recipe's tasty. I love it. I'm sure you will too. So, we'll turn that heat down to low. Put a lid back on. We'll leave it simmer for about 5 more minutes, and then we'll put it in a bowl and we'll serve it up. Alright folks, here's the finished product. Time to put it in the bowl. Yep, Pop-Pop's getting you some too, bud. Okay. And then to top it off, add a little Parmesan cheese to it. Stir it in. Now for the best part, the part where I burn myself. So good. Well folks, that'll do it. If you like this video, make sure to give it a nice big thumbs up. As well as always, share it with your friends and family. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below if you want to see me make anything out of the ordinary, something special, or just make a comment about this current video. And that about wraps it up for this week's episode. Hope to see you back next time. I'm Bob and I'm the Kenzo Chef.